Okay, so here we go with the story of Abraham and Melchizedek. I'll just put Mel for the sake of time. We know that from Abraham to Moses, about 430 years. And we know that Moses established the Levitical priesthood. So there's two kinds of priesthood, right? That we know of. The Levitical priesthood and the Melchizedek priesthood. So your knowledge of the priesthood is growing because of our study. In every priesthood, there seems to be a clear understanding that there is one high priest, and then you have all the other priests. So in the Levitical priesthood, we see that Aaron is the high priest, and then everybody else are regular priests. But when we look at the Melchizedek priesthood, can we see the same pattern of one high priest and then a regular priest? Let's check it out. Let's go to Genesis chapter 14. And in chapter 14 of Genesis, pay attention to how it's worded. So in Genesis 14, verse 18, the context is Abraham returned from defeating Kedorlaomer, and the kings allied with him. The king of Sodom came out to meet him in the valley of Shaveh, that is King's Valley. So then Melchizedek, king of Salem, appears. That's verse 18. So there was a war. Abraham and his allies, they defeated these kings. And the way it works during those days, and maybe even today, when there's a war between two nations, the winner usually takes possession of the land as well as taking possession of all their belongings, because they're the winner of the war. They take the spoils of war. So with that understanding, after Abraham defeated the kings, it says in verse 18, then Melchizedek, so let's slow down. Melchizedek, what is he? He's a king of Salem. Okay, that's pretty clear. All you got to do is locate Salem during this time in history and understand who was the king in Salem during this time, and we should point it out to Melchizedek. That's the literal. Now, if we get into the figurative, it'll get more complicated, and I don't think we want to get too caught up in the figurative, and then we don't know what the heck is Salem, where Salem is, and everything's figurative. But we can take the meaning of Salem, which is peace. So Melchizedek, king of Salem. Now we can, work with some figurative language or literal. So he's king of peace. Okay, that's what Salem means, peace. So what does he do? He brings out bread and wine. Now, I've come across some teachings that say it's not just bread and wine, but he actually created a big feast for Abraham. Whatever the case is, there's bread and wine that he brought to Abraham. Okay, so now the relationship between Melchizedek and Abraham is being established right here, because there's no other mention of Abraham and Melchizedek prior to this point. Now, he's described, and pay attention to these words. This is where it's going to get very technical. It says he was priest of God Most High. Did you guys get that? So where I'm writing God Most High, if you see that on the whiteboard, God Most High, it's describing God as the Most High God. Okay, God Most High. So he's a priest of God Most High. Now, what people seem to read into this is that Melchizedek is a high priest. No, it doesn't say that. It says he's the priest of God Most High. God is Most High. And if you want to get more technical, look at the word God Most High. If you underline that word God Most High, look what he says in verse 19. Blessed be Abram by God Most High. That's number 2. Creator of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High. That's number 3, who delivered your enemies into your hand. Do you see that? So God being referred to as Most High, God Most High, 3 times. So it's not referring to Melchizedek as priest of, or high priest of God. It's not referring to Melchizedek as a high priest of God. Does that make sense so far? Because this is technical, so you want to be able to process something this technical, right? Okay. Tell me that you're getting this, because I really think this is where it needs your effort to make sure you're not getting confused, or you don't let people confuse you. Are you guys getting that?
Yes, Pastor.
Okay.
Yes.
So it is God Most High that we're acknowledging, not Melchizedek being a high priest of God. He's just a priest of God, the God who is Most High. So that's what you have to work with. Either Melchizedek is a high priest, or he's just a regular priest. And right now, he's just a regular priest of God. He's not described as a high priest of God. Are you guys clear on that?
Yes.
So we have
Yes.
to kind of solidify that understanding. Now, if people disagree with this translation, okay, that's fine. But it's what we're working with, and that's what he's going to reveal to us in Hebrews. So Melchizedek, we know that he's king of Salem. He brings out bread and wine, or a feast, to Abraham. Then he's described as priest of God Most High. And then what does he do? He blesses Abraham. So that's what he does. He blesses Abraham. He gives Abraham the blessing. Do you know that act of this priest giving a blessing to Abraham is very significant in the culture? What we want to establish, and it's going to be described more in Hebrews, the fact that Melchizedek blesses Abraham has to be taken very seriously. Why? Why does it have to be taking? God bless you, Manny. Just hang in there, brother. And we know how, I just got a note from Manny about, dealing with the Parkinson's. So continue to lift you up. And as we continue with this understanding of Melchizedek blessing Abraham, Abraham is the greatest figure among the Jews, among Israel. He's the father. He started it all. In the Jewish sense, if you want to look at it from a Jewish perspective, he's the greatest. He's the greatest of the nation of Israel. If it wasn't for Abraham, you would not have Israel. So he is very significant. And yet, this mysterious figure named Melchizedek is blessing Abraham. The fact that this Melchizedek is blessing Abraham. Do you know what that communicates? Does anybody have any idea what that communicates? The fact that Melchizedek is blessing Abraham.
That Melchizedek is greater than Abraham, more higher.
Okay. Did you conclude that on your own, or did you read that?
No, because he's the king, and I know Abraham was chosen by God to be the father of all nations.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that God the Father chose Melchizedek to be a priest, and he was blessed by God 3 times. It shows, and then Abraham was the one who knelt before Melchizedek. I was just looking at the picture.
Oh, okay, but okay, you get it. But it is written. So the fact that you concluded that tells you you're going in the right direction, because it is actually written. The fact that, so let's establish that the fact that Melchizedek blessed Abraham, you establish who is superior or who is greater.
Yeah.
Right? Because the understanding which is found in Hebrews, I might as well tell you where it is, and you'll find it. It says, without a doubt, verse 7, and without doubt, the lesser person is blessed by the greater.
Oh, it is
Okay. So you were in the right track, and the fact that you didn't even read it, but you just put it together, that's good, right? I mean, you're following the logic of the writer. So Melchizedek is greater. He is superior to Abraham. And yet, from the Jewish perspective, who's the greatest? From the Jewish perspective, who's the greatest?
Abraham.
Abraham. You can't deny that Abraham is the greatest among the Jewish people. But because of this mystery that Abraham is receiving the blessing, this mysterious Melchizedek blesses Abraham. He is verse 7, and without doubt, the lesser is blessed by the greater.
Pastor,
Abraham
is that the one that the Jews
less.
are talking about, this Abraham Accord? Is that about Abraham
Yes.
in Israel?
Yeah, it's the same Abraham.
Okay.
So the Abraham Accord obviously is modern day way of trying to reconcile the Arabs and the Jews. That's the modern way. But if you go back to history, it's because of Abraham having a son named Ishmael, and then Abraham having a son named Isaac. Ishmael is known to be the father of the Arabs. This is in simplistic understanding. And then Abraham is also the father of Israel, the Jews, and the Abraham Accord is to try to reconcile both of them in the name of Abraham, their forefather. Okay, so it is the same Abraham. But in this case, the fact that Abraham is considered lesser than Melchizedek should tell you the importance of Melchizedek's priesthood. Right? He's a greater person than Abraham because of his role as a priest of God. And again, this is the only revelation you have of Melchizedek, and you won't find another revelation of Melchizedek until you get to David. So you guys are all clear so far, right?
Yes.
Now let's continue with Genesis. And so he brought out bread and wine. I'm in Genesis 14, verse 18 and 19. He brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High, not the high priest of God. I continue to emphasize that, because if you say high priest of God, then you're going to get really confused, because the only high priest, right, is in there's only one high priest in every priesthood. So that's where it gets more complicated. But let's continue to work with that. And we continue to lift up Manny. God bless Manny. Okay. And he blessed Abram. So he was priest of God Most High and he blessed Abram. Why? Because the role of a priest, one of the other functions of a priest is to bless the people. You guys understand that, right? In the name of God, they're appointed to bless the people. So, because Melchizedek is functioning as a priest, what does he do? He blesses Abraham. It's God's design. Are you guys familiar with the blessing of the Levitical priesthood when they bless the people? In fact, there's a song about it. It's called The Blessing. So what the Levitical priests say is, it's found in Numbers. Someone look it up. It's the Lord will choose you, Lord, shine upon you, the Lord and give you peace.
Pastor, we didn't
And-
get it because you were coming in and out. We were losing you.
Oh boy. Okay. where do I begin?
From the
Numbers?
beginning, that how the Levitical priest blessed the people.
Yeah, about numbers.
Okay, so the Levitical priests do. I'm gonna try to. Maybe I'm too close to a computer. As you know, I'm in the internet connection. So.
Well, you're okay most of the time, Pastor Bird. It's just certain times when you read something, maybe too quickly, or I'm not sure.
That's fine. Okay, so
Sure,
I'm looking up. That's fine. We'll just keep working with what we have. You know, this is where love is patient, right? Here I'm looking up what they call the Aaronic blessing or the Levitical blessing to the people. And so if you guys know where it is, let me know. I'm looking it up right now. But it says, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance toward you and give you peace. And that's how God wants the people to be blessed. I just found it. It's in Numbers chapter 6. Verse 22. Tell me if I'm losing you because I'll just keep going.
So far, so good.
6:22, the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron and his sons, this is how you are to bless the Israelites. Remember, now we're talking about Moses, right? How many years from Abraham to Moses?
400 years.
Okay, so we're talking about 400 years since Melchizedek and Abraham. And now Moses is being instructed by God. This is how you are to bless the people of Israel. The Lord bless you. And you know, I've come across some Jewish teachers who say that the way the Jewish priests do it, they put their hand up like this, you know, and then they put it over the people, and then they say, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance toward you and give you peace. And they receive the blessing from the priest. That's the way it is during the time of Moses. And then there's an interesting thing that is a phrase that not too many people pay attention to, but it's there. Verse 27. 6:27 says, so they, who are they? The priests, right? Will put my name on the Israelites, and I will bless them. It's as if here I am receiving the blessing from the priests, it's like they place the name of God on me, right? The name of God is on me, and God will bless me. So it's that kind of an exchange. That's during the time of Moses. During the time of Abraham, Melchizedek is the only one there to give the blessing. You guys good on that so far?
Okay, Pastor.
So let's go back to Genesis and finish that up before we go to Hebrews. So in Genesis, Melchizedek, who is greater or lesser than Abraham?
Greater.
Greater, thank you. He blesses Abraham, saying, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High." Again, God Most High, creator of heaven and earth. What a beautiful God we have, the great creator. And verse 20 says, 14:20 of Genesis says, "And blessed be God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand," acknowledging that his protection, his victory comes from the Lord. And that's done. It's a simple blessing.
14.
Okay, guys, we got to fix your background noise. Did you guys get that? Did you guys get all that?
Yes, Pastor.
Yes, Pastor. Yes, Pastor.
So you see here, it's a simple blessing. It's not too wordy, but it's acknowledging God Most High, desiring to bless Abraham through the Melchizedek priest. Okay. After that exchange, what does Abraham do? Abraham gave him a tenth of everything. Now, this idea of Abraham giving him a tenth of everything continues to establish that Melchizedek is greater, Abraham is the lesser, and Abraham being the lesser gives the tenth to Melchizedek. And because of that relationship being clear, the lesser is being blessed by the greater is the one who is blessing the lesser. Because of that greater and lesser relationship, it continues to be validated by the fact that Abraham gives him a tenth of everything, as if to say, Melchizedek says to him, "Now that I blessed you, Abraham, God wants you to give me a tenth of everything you have." And Abraham says, "Surely I will do that, since God is my God, my source of blessing, protection, victory is him. I have no problem in giving you the tenth." Okay? So once we establish this understanding in Genesis, we'll expand that understanding in the book of Hebrews. Okay? So let's go to Hebrews chapter 7, verse 1 to 3. As we go there, what do we see? A deeper explanation of Melchizedek. This Melchizedek, verse 1, was king of Salem and priest of God Most High, confirming what we read in Genesis. Again, I have to come in and say he's not the high priest of God Most High. He's a priest of God Most High. He met Abraham returning from the defeat of the kings and blessed him. So again, the victory that he received in war is being acknowledged that it was from the Lord he got the victory, right? Because Genesis says, who brings your enemies into your hands. Did Abraham have enemies? Sure. But it's God who gave him the victory over his enemies. So he met Abraham returning from the defeat of the kings and blessed him. We just read that. And Abraham gave him a tenth of everything. We just read that. That exchange. Okay, so far so good. Now let's get into the meaning. First, his name means king of righteousness. Now, what does that mean? Melchizedek is, I'm not sure if it's Hebrew or Aramaic, doesn't really matter much at this point. The definition is already given to us that his name Melchizedek means so Melchi means king of righteousness.
Pastor Bert, we lost you again.
King of righteousness.
We didn't get it,
Or-
Pastor.
well, king of righteousness.
The meaning of Melchizedek or righteousness that you were trying to tell us. We didn't get it. We didn't hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So Melchizedek means king of righteousness. You read
I'm going to be
here,
quiet. Let her say it.
right? Yeah. We're just doing our best with technical. But are you guys clear on that? Melchizedek means king of righteousness.
Yes.
Now, if you meditate on that, right? King, what is a king? Well, he has rule. He rules. He is sovereign. And to be king of righteousness, it means righteousness is something that comes from him. He rules over righteousness, as if to say he can give righteousness to anyone he wants to give it to. Yeah, he rules in righteousness. He is a righteous king. He
King
works
of
righteousness. I mean, if you meditate on just the simple phrase, king of righteousness, but that's his title, king of righteousness. Okay, and then we continue. It says, then also king of Salem. And then he says, king of Salem means king of peace.
Peace.
So when you put this mysterious figure, Melchizedek, king of righteousness, and him being king of peace, what comes from him, because a king rules and a king reigns and he is sovereign, from him come righteousness and peace. That's what this Melchizedek priesthood is all about. It's an understanding that you are given righteousness and peace. He becomes the source or the ruler of righteousness and peace. So when you think about Melchizedek and Abraham in this exchange, Abraham not only is receiving the blessing that Melchizedek is giving him, but he's also receiving it from a person who is the king of righteousness and who is also the king of peace. And Abraham is there to receive that blessing. That's a good deal for Abraham, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, Melchizedek is greater than Abraham. So the Jews are now like having to react to this. I thought Abraham was the greatest in our nation, and now you're telling us Melchizedek is greater than our Abraham? And the answer is yes. What proof is there? Melchizedek blesses Abraham. That's enough proof that you need that Melchizedek is greater. Abraham is the lesser.
Where was I going? Yeah.
You guys are still with me?
Question,
Pastor.
Pastor.
If I'm
Yes.
losing you, I can always repeat it, but you know, that's what you have there. Yeah, go ahead with any questions, please.
Yes, I'm kind of like confused. How did Abraham know that Melchizedek is more superior than him? And how would Abraham explain it to the Jews?
Well, it's not explained to the Jews. The writer of Hebrews is the one establishing that.
Oh, but
Yeah.
how did Abraham know that Melchizedek is greater or more superior than him, and he's giving this reverence
Ten?
and everything?
Mhm. Yeah.
So
That's a good
How did
question.
Abraham know to do that?
yeah, and this is the first time they met, right?
It's the first we don't know if it's the first time because it's not on biblical record. So our biblical record shows that when they did meet this time around, right? We don't know if it's the first time because it's not clear, but because this exchange took place, Abraham received the blessing, Melchizedek gave the blessing, and the writer of Hebrews is interpreting that as surely the greater is the one blessing the lesser. It doesn't go the other way around.
Of course.
That's their culture, custom. When you are being blessed, it's like you receive the blessing from the greater. Where is that confirmed? In Numbers, when the Levitical priests give the blessing to the people during the time of Moses. So you guys got that in Numbers, right?
Like there is example in our country, Pastor. You always have to kiss the hand of the old elderly people when you meet them.
Okay,
Because
so that's a
you're
form of
younger.
showing respect, right?
Yeah,
Showing respect, and you're showing that they're greater than you,
Yes.
part of the culture, something along those lines. Yeah. So you guys are clear on that? So if you're trying to establish how did Abraham know to do that, there's no explanation. It just says it the way it is. Okay, so for
That
those
was a
who
good
missed,
question.
so for those who missed the reference in Numbers chapter 6, verse 22, it's called the priestly blessing that the Levites, again, this is because of during the time of Moses, not during the time of Abraham, because the Levites were the one who were given the authority to bless the people. So you guys are seeing the consistency.
Yes.
Okay, Daniel, you have your hand raised, brother.
Yeah, Pastor Burke, like in the succeeding verse.
Okay, let's fix your background noise.
Yeah, like in chapter 13, it's so clear that
Chapter 13
of Numbers.
Chapter 13 of Numbers. Is it 13?
13, where Lot and Abraham divided their
You're saying you mean Genesis?
Genesis, yeah, Genesis. Possession,
okay.
Pastor.
Okay, Genesis. Okay, go on.
14:20.
Yeah, and we know that Lot and Abraham, they divided their possessions.
Yeah, they split up, right?
Yeah,
because
split
they
up
were
and
arguing.
Yeah, they were arguing, and then
Okay.
Abraham humbled himself, and then he gave the part for Lot. And the question, Pastor, is what he gave to Melchizedek, is that part of that possession in the tent?
As far as the land?
Yeah, Pastor.
No, it doesn't seem like that fits. You know why? Because in the Levitical priesthood, they don't get land.
Okay.
So it seems to be it's only the possessions.
So
And because of the context, it seems to be all the spoils of war.
Yeah.
They keep it, but I'll give a tenth of it to the priest.
Also, what he got from the war, he won from the war.
Yeah.
The plunder that he got there.
But it seems like it's not just limited what he got from the war. It's everything he owns, what he got in the war. That's what Abraham gave him of everything.
Oh, Pastor.
That's verse 20. Then Abraham gave him a tenth of everything.
Everything.
So that tells me everything. And because we know the biblical concept of land, the priest doesn't care about land.
Okay, Pastor. Thank you so much. Because that's the question, because it says there's everything. So I thought,
Yeah. Yeah, it could be. That's why it's worth asking. But when you look at the story of the Levitical priesthood, they weren't given any land when the land was being given to the 12 tribes of Israel.
Exactly.
Tribe of Levi doesn't get land. You know what they inherit instead?
Everything
Instead of
else.
land?
The
You know what they
priesthood.
inherit? Ooh, it's a lot of background. Do you know what they inherit instead of land compared to all the tribes.
Priesthood.
What?
I think
The
it's God's.
priest and
The
gold
priesthood.
and silver.
Okay, sorry, one at a time, guys. I got to deal with the. Okay, give me one at a time.
I think I got
The
it.
priesthood.
What do they inherit?
I go with they got 10% of
The
everything.
priesthood.
Oh.
They don't get any possession. They don't get any land.
No
So do you
cattle.
know what they inherit?
Yeah, the
The
offering,
cattle.
the tent of meeting, Pastor, the tent.
Nope.
God
You got to
Himself.
find it in the law. They inherit God.
God Himself, Pastor. Yeah.
They inherit the Lord.
What
So,
I'm saying a while ago. God Himself.
so that's just one of those things that gives you a insight into what the priests go through, right? There's a lot of things that the priests are set apart by God, and that's one of the things. They don't inherit the land, they inherit God. They inherit the Lord Himself. Okay.
Amen, Pastor Bert.
Any more questions about this idea of the priesthood? Regarding Melchizedek being greater than Abraham. That's all you need to establish. And remember, you got to keep in mind the Jews are going to be offended by this, right? How dare you say that Melchizedek is greater than Abraham? Abraham is the greatest in Israel, and you should agree, he is the greatest in Israel. But when God reveals that Melchizedek has authority to bless Abraham, well, then you can quote Numbers chapter 6, verse 22, where the Levitical priests are the ones who blesses the people. And then at the same time in Hebrews, where it says, and without a doubt, the lesser person is blessed by the greater, which is found in in Hebrews 7:7. Okay. Now it says in verse 4, I'm now back to Hebrews 7:4 now, because it looks like we're able to get more time. Just think how great he was. See that? It says, just think how great he was. Melchizedek, just think how great Melchizedek was. Okay? Even the patriarch Abraham gave him a tenth of the plunder. See, establishing who is superior, who's greater, and who's lesser. Even Abraham gave him a tenth of the plunder. So this might be a correction on me. It might not be everything. Maybe it's just the plunder. Just what he got from war. Maybe that's all he gave. That's the tenth of what he got from war. So, okay, that's fine. Now let's move on.
There's
Verse
a question, Pastor. Pastor, there's
What was
still one
that?
question. Yeah, unless want to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Robert, Ernest, Daniel mentioned about the land that Lot was given. I think the lot came from the property came from the king when Abraham and his wife pretended to be sisters. So the king drive them away, gave them property, and then Abraham and Lot, they separated and gave the land to Lot.
Who gave the land to Lot?
So I don't know.
Are you concerned about the land that Lot got?
Yeah, it was given by the king when the king drive them away because they pretended to be brother and sisters.
Okay, give me that verse where it says the king gave the land to Lot,
I was
and we
wondering.
can talk about it. But I don't know where that verse is.
Yeah, because that was the time of Jacob and Lot. Oh, Abraham and Lot. So
I don't, like I
the
said,
ladies-
I don't have that verse. You got to find that verse where it says the king gave the land to Lot.
It's on.
Because I don't know where that verse is. I don't even know if that verse exists.
Yeah, because Abraham and.
What is the verse?
I'm looking for the verse. There's no time for me
Yeah.
the verse.
Okay, let's keep
Okay.
looking for the verse, and then when you find it, we'll
Wait,
look
just
at it.
wait.
But in the
Just wanna
meantime,
clear- Pastor Bert, I just want to clear whether that was the time of Melchizedek or the time of Jacob. That's the time of Jacob, right? Or is that the time
You
of
got to give me that verse so that I can, read it, the whole
The
passage,
verse.
because I
Okay,
can't
okay.
try to answer a
Okay.
speculation.
Okay.
So the best way to do it is give me the verse and then we can research it. So go ahead and find that verse and then we'll talk about it. But while you're looking for it, let's continue with the teaching in Hebrews. Okay?
Okay, Pastor. Okay, Pastor.
Yeah, because remember, if everybody starts giving me ideas without the verses, there's going to be a lot of confusion. And we don't want to do that. Okay, so let's continue. It says in chapter 7 of Hebrews, now the law requires the descendants of Levi who become priests to collect a tenth from the people, that is their brothers, even though their brothers are descended from Abraham. Are you guys getting this? It's a lot, but here's a concept. Let me draw the picture here.
What verse is that, Pastor Bert?
Not Hebrews chapter 7, verse 5. Okay. Let me work with this. Okay, so since we're going to be working with this idea here, okay, you guys see Moses and the Levitical priesthood, right? After Abraham, it says the law. You guys understand the law? It's not just do this and don't do that. Thou shalt not do this and thou shalt do this. It also includes the laws for the priests, the laws for the priesthood. And now it includes the law of collecting the tithes. So here's a Levitical priest. And what does he do? He collects, right? He collects from who? Who does he collect from?
The Pharisees,
From the Jew, Pastor.
from the
From the people,
people,
And who are the people?
the Jews.
Yeah, Israel, right?
Yeah.
From the people. So how do they look at this guy Levi, right? Or the priest, Levitical priest? They look at him
It's a
like he's
greater
a tax
person.
collector.
Tax collector. Unbelievable,
He's like the
Pastor.
taxman. If the taxman comes to your house on an official business and they say to you, Ophelia, we represent the government and you owe us taxes, give us 10% of everything you own right now, or else you're going to be in trouble. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm just giving you the concept, right?
Yeah.
He's like the tax collector
Uh-huh.
because God said, okay, where is God in this picture? God told Levitical priests to collect the 10th, give me 10%. So look, just based on this relationship between the people and the Levitical priests, who's greater? Between the people and the Levitical priests, who's greater?
Levitical priest.
The Levitical priest.
Why? Why are they greater?
Because
Yeah.
he's the one
Lord.
the 10% from the people.
Because
Very good.
they know the law.
Plus, you got to give them 10%.
Yeah.
That establishes their authority and
Yeah.
that establishes their power over you.
Mm-hmm.
How about if they're mean? How about if the Levitical priests are mean to you? Are you still going to give them 10%?
Yes.
Yes.
Even if they're mean?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's ordered by God.
That's right. It doesn't matter what their personality is.
Yeah.
The only thing that counts is that God put it in the law of Moses And the law of Moses requires the people to give 10% to the priests. See, it's required by the law.
Baptists
So if you
are
want to
still
be under the law,
Raise your
who should-
hand, please.
if you want to be under the law, the people who want to be under the law, if you want to be under the law, you should be giving 10% to who?
to the church.
See, you're not under the law. We're under the law right now.
No.
Who should you be giving the 10% to if
To
you're
the
under the
priest.
law?
To the priest.
The
To the
priest.
Levitical priest.
Yes, to the Levitical priest.
Is Pastor Bert a Levitical priest?
No.
No.
No. I wish. But I'm not a Levitical priest. We got to find them so that we can give 10% of our income to them. That's why when people say we're under the law, well, are you following this? Because God gave the Levites, the Levitical priests, the authority to collect it. And if you say, well, I don't give to the Levitical priest, I give to my church, I give to my pastor, well, then you're not under the law, right? But if you say, I follow the law, then you got to give it to the Levites.
But
That's
how
what
about
it says here,
Pastor,
verse 5.
other churches are practicing that now, even the Baptists.
Well, that's because they mix the old and the new covenant I think what churches do today, they mix the old and the new covenant to their advantage.
Yeah.
And I can't say all churches do that, but pay attention when they are doing that. Because how can the church say we give us a tenth when that's not under the law? And if you're under the new covenant, it doesn't talk about giving the tenth. It talks about giving, but it doesn't talk about giving the tenth. Now, if you find under the new covenant where you are required to give 10%, I don't see it. And if I do find it, then at least I'll submit to that. But it's not in the new covenant. It's in the old covenant.
Yeah.
That's why we have to constantly consider context. And we got to use the tools of interpretation. Now, obviously, if I was a church like them, I'd love for all of you to give me 10% to build the church. Right?
Yeah.
But that's a human feeling. That's not what's written in the Bible. There were also, when you read the book of Acts, there were people giving more than 10%. But that's not the law. What is written is don't give out of compulsion, don't give out of regret, but the Lord loves the cheerful giver.
Manny's hands up, please.
We give based on what we make. You know what I mean? If you making a bunch of money and giving less, is that really all you could give? That's why he said the Lord loves to give her. And the lady who gave her her last compared to the rich folks who was bragging about what they give. He has this lady who have nothing and makes nothing, and y'all bragging about what y'all have, and y'all have it in abundance. You know what I mean? So we give based on what we make. If you make a bunch of money, then you should be willing to give more than 10%.
And the qualification, you got to do it cheerfully. God loves the cheerful giver. Okay.
Yeah, look at the old woman who just gave two dimes, and God.
Brother Kevin just mentioned that. Yeah, Brother Kevin just mentioned that. I got two hands raised that I see. Asha and then Daniel. Go ahead, Asha.
3 weeks ago, Pastor, this is what happened. I normally just give based on what I make. I just give, even if sometimes I don't have any more left, I just give, right? But then normally, like in the church, we were giving time. I was meditating and I was closing my eyes. And then the Lord knows that I'm asking, because I normally ask the Lord, Lord, how much should I give now every Sunday, like that? And then the Lord showed me a 10% or a little more. So I believe it's just for me. This is just for me, okay? I don't know what the Lord wants you guys to do. But the Lord showed me just give this much. So when the Lord showed me that number, Pastor, it gives me at like at the next time I don't have to think because I already know what the Lord wants me to give. You know what I'm saying? He already gave me guide.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a giving that's done between you and God.
Yeah. So
Right.
I was so thankful. That's why if you guys want to know, like if you're asking, like you're thinking, like how much should you give? Ask the Lord, how much should you give? Because He will tell you. So that's what I did, and then since then I know exactly what I have to do. So it gives me like I don't have to think about anymore, and I don't have to ask because He already showed it to me. So it's for us, for it's easier for us in the future in our
Well,
giving.
see, that's your faith, and that's where you and God have to work this out, because what you're going through, Asha, with the Lord, that's between you and God. And then you always got to keep the big picture in mind, which means you're doing this for how long now between you and God in this area of giving?
He just showed it to me like 3 weeks ago because I always ask like, Lord, how much should I give each time? Because I want His permission, and I want His, you know what I mean, like whatever He said, because I don't want to force my heart, because I might be giving and then it's not gonna be, you know what I mean, like I could be giving a lot, but then there's no point of giving a lot because it's not what it's needed. I mean,
Well,
you know
that's
what
why,
I'm saying?
that's why when I asked that, how long have you been doing that? Okay, it's been about 3 weeks. Okay,
Yeah,
so
He just showed me that 3 weeks, but then I've been
Yeah.
doing my own way from my heart for a long time. So
Okay.
it gives me peace.
Right. And that's between you and God,
Yeah.
which means everybody's relationship with God varies. And what
Yeah.
I tell everybody as far as giving goes, and this is just from my life experience, go with what's written in the Word of God, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
God loves the hilarious or cheerful giver. And if I'm
Yes.
giving
Amen.
to God and I'm giving to the Lord or giving to people, if I'm not cheerful about it, then me and God
Don't.
have to work that out. Okay. This area of giving is really part of your Christian journey. And you always
Yes.
got to keep in mind, this giving is not one time. Okay. You
Lifestyle.
got 50 years of giving
Your
to
lifestyle.
God, 50 years of building treasure in heaven, right? So keep the big picture in mind as you continue to want to give to the Lord, because it is definitely part of our Christian journey to give. And this is what I was taught, and it's biblical. The Lord loves us. He gave His Son.
All.
Jesus Christ, His Son, loves us. He gave His life.
Amen.
So for us, if we're going to be like God, if we're going to be like Jesus, when we give, God help us to give with love. Okay? Because that's how God does it. So we should give with love. Okay? Daniel has his hand raised. Who else has their hand raised?
It's Manny first, Pastor. He's been
Yes, Manny. I put
waiting.
my hand up for Manny. So Manny.
Manny, go ahead, bro. What's yours? And then we'll take care of your question. And then Diane, and then Daniel.
No, I'm okay, Pastor.
Okay, let's go with Manny. Go ahead, Manny.
Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes.
You were asking who, and the answer was Israel.
Go on.
I bet you some Israelites didn't like the idea of having to give 10%. I'm sure. And they probably said, screw you, I'm going to do it my way. I'm sure that's a portion of it said that. But it's
Well,
not.
yeah, I mean, you can speculate how different people react. And if you got different people reacting to the law of Moses. Remember, that's the context. It's the law of Moses, where we read here. I'm going to read it one more time. Chapter 7, verse 5. Now the law requires the descendants of Levi who become priests to collect a tenth from the people. That's clear. You know, if I was a descendant of Levi and I'm a priest, my boss would tell me, collect a tenth from Philia, from Asha, from Kevin, from Manny. You know, if you guys are Israelites in this context, collect it from everybody: Daniel, Debbie, Princess, Anna, Carmel, Susie, Daphne, Amy, Princess, Mike. Oh, there's a lot of you guys here today. JQO, John, baby Catherine. Okay, that would be my job, to collect a tenth from you. Now your job is, if you are to obey it, right? Pay me 10%. That's the context. If you don't pay me the 10%, I'm going to tell Moses about you. You know, hey, Moses, Manny doesn't want to pay me the 10%. What should I do, Moses? You know, he's breaking the law. He's
Why
not
do you have to
paying his...
use my name?
Huh?
Why do you have to use my name?
I always love to use you for illustration purposes, but don't take it personal, Manny. It's not a personal thing.
Okay.
But that's simply what it says here, right? It says, I'll read it again. I'll just keep reading it again and again. It's the word of God. It's in the book of the law, so it's not like I'm making it up. Now the law requires the descendants of Levi who become priests to collect a tenth from the people. That is their brothers. So if I was, again, part of the Levitical priesthood, all of you are considered my brothers. We're all brothers here, right? You're from the tribe of Reuben. I'm from the tribe of Levi. You're from the tribe of Zebulun. I'm from the tribe of Levi. We're all brothers. But even though we're brothers, guess what? Pay me the 10%. You don't give it to Reuben. You don't give it to Simeon. You don't give it to Judah, right? You don't give it to all the other brothers. You give it to me, because I
To
am
Levi,
a priest
Levi
in the
priest.
order of the... This is how it works. Welcome to the
In the
priesthood,
order
in
of
the
what?
Levitical priesthood under the law of Moses. This is how it works. I have authority to collect the money from you. You might as well call me the tax collector, because you better pay up, or else I'm going to let Moses know that you're breaking the law. How does that feel? And why am I establishing this? Okay, see, we're getting into overtime, and if you guys have the time, I can afford to do that. But look what
But
it says. Look what it says. It says, he collects a tenth from the people, that is their brothers. So even though I'm your brother, even though I'm younger than you or older than you, it doesn't matter. I'm still your brother. Pay me the 10% according to the law. Look what it says. Even though their brothers are descended from Abraham. See? Why is the writer of Hebrews telling us this? All to establish who is the greater and who is the lesser when we're talking about the priesthood. That's what this is all about. Okay? Abraham and Melchizedek, the priest, who's greater? Melchizedek. Proof that he's greater. He collected a tenth from Abraham. That's the proof, as well as blessing Abraham.
yeah.
And in the Levitical priesthood, since I'm a Levitical priest, I bless you. According to Numbers chapter 6, where I say, the Lord bless you, the Lord keep you, the Lord make his face shine upon you, the Lord lift up his countenance toward you and give you peace. I place the name of the Lord upon you, and the Lord will bless you. Okay, you receive that blessing because I'm a priest in the Levitical order, and you say yes, Well, good. I'm glad you received that blessing. Now give me a tenth. Well, Levi, Bert, you're not that kind. You're kind of rough and harsh about it.
Also, Pastor, it's a test of obedience.
Doesn't matter. Well,
It's
that's
a
the
test
law.
of obedience.
But that's the law. Remember, this is the
Yeah.
law of Moses, the Levitical priesthood. Okay, so yes, it is a test of a lot of things, including faith and obedience. Sure, but why is he establishing greater and lesser? Let's read along. Let's continue. Verse 6. This man, who is this man? We're talking about Melchizedek now. Okay, because he says this man, right? However, did not trace his descendant from Levi. Are you guys catching this?
Yeah, Melchizedek is not from a Levi clan, Pastor.
That's right. So we're back here again, right? He has, okay, so as far as Melchizedek is concerned, he has no father or mother, no genealogy, no beginning of days or end of life, and he doesn't trace his genealogy to Levi. Okay? So I'm helping you process this. Who collects the 10th out of all the tribes?
Melchizedek.
The Levitical
No.
high priest, Pastor.
Levitical priest.
Well, remember, out of all the 12 tribes, who collects it? Levi.
Levites.
Okay, so we're good, right? The Levitical priesthood. Okay, now look what it says. This man, and you were talking about Melchizedek, okay? This man did not trace his descendant from Levi, yet, what? He collected a tenth
He
from
collected, yep.
Abraham. Asked him. So we're connecting this relationship between Melchizedek and Abraham is the lesser, and he gave a tenth to Melchizedek. Again, establishing that Melchizedek is greater than Abraham. So it says, he collected a tenth from Abraham and blessed him who had the promises. Verse 7, and without doubt, the lesser person is blessed by the greater. In the one case, okay, now again, he's going back and forth. In the one case, the tenth is collected by men who die. So in the one case, which is going back to this, in the one case, he's collecting the tenth from them. And what happens to Levi, the Levitical priests? They die.
They die.
Right? Because they're human. And then he says, but in the other case, right? But in the other case, Melchizedek and Abraham, what about that case? In this case of Melchizedek and Abraham,
Abraham died, Pastor.
That's what it says, right? So
yeah, and Melchizedek did not die. Unbelievable.
So it says that in the one case, the tenth is collected. I'm in verse 7-8. In the one case, the tenth is collected by men who die, but in the other case, it is collected by him who is declared to be living. See? So here is a revelation, because there's no record of him dying. He's referred to as one who is still alive, still living.
Unbelievable.
Okay? Now, again, we're dealing with the mystery of Melchizedek. So, are you guys processing this? We're at 15 minutes overtime. So let's wrap it up, and then we'll have to continue this tomorrow. But we're now moving our way through 7, verse 6, 7, and 8, 9, and 10. Okay, we'll hopefully cover that tomorrow. I hope you guys got something out of it. And brother,